Good afternoon or noon, everybody. It's John and Alex, and this is the SEOWiSE Friday edition of Office Hours. Today, we have our competition on the show. That's what we have today. This was an interesting idea brought about by the fact that we believe in being transparent and honest and open, and that in this new modern era of working on the web, we can actually collaborate with our competitors. Today, our competitors, Dennis and Duce. He is a Hangout on Air producer and host. He does some really amazing things with shows, and he focuses a lot on the engagement factor, something that we believe in because we're doing engagement broadcasting, or at least that's what we'd like to call it. So we're going to be talking with Dennis today. But first, hey Alex, how you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, sorry, I'm like monitoring the comments, and because we have Dennis in the house, we have a lot of commentaries. He has such a loyal following. I'm kind of jelly.
Are you now?
But good. Yes.
And I can see Dennis laughing when you said jelly. So all right, so cool. Let's just get through the introduction and bring him in. The first thing I have to say about Dennis is that he actually took the time to have somebody do a transparency. It cut out the background on his profile image, which lets me do cool things like that. Okay, that's really cool. So that's just a nice little promo PR tip for everybody out there in business. Have your creative, when you get a profile pic, do this so that other creatives can do this. I know that was totally clear and made no sense. Let me read you the introduction I wanted to read you for Dennis. All right. Here's straight from his Google Plus profile. Tagline says, "Box? What box? The glass is full. If you can't give 110%, so stop lying to me. The point here is that I see the world way different. Circle me for a peek. Don't be too frightened." All right. I like that. Right out front, he tells you he's a little bit different, sees things a little differently. It's exactly the kind of person Alex and I love to work with. But it gets even better. All right. Introduction. I am a Hangout on Air producer. Right here, this explains what this is. I capture content and create engagement for small business owners throughout the United States. I would say you do more than the United States because everybody's global these days, but he captures content and creates engagement around it. Yay! That's what we're talking about here. It's not just about broadcasting, right? I love that. Gives us a list of all of these things. Here's some suggestions of circles. Hangout on Air producer, Fedora lover, Auto Awesome addict, Google Plus evangelist, artist, photographer, keynote speaker, online marketing. What I like about these things, and the last one is the best, skateboarders over 40. This is a circle to put him in. What I like about this, Alex, is that we have a rounded human being. We get the cats and bacon as well as what this guy does for a living, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I now have a question that I never thought I'd ask anyone ever.
All right.
I want to know how many fedoras he has if he is a fedora lover.
Well, here you go. Welcome, Dennis, to the show, and that's the first question we have for you. How many fedoras do you own?
I have 6 right now.
All right.
And if anyone wants to send me more, I would happily take more fedoras, Rhonda.
Very nice, very nice. All right, well, 6, working on more. And where do you reside? Because I didn't even cover that. Where are you hanging out?
I'm in Utah, just south of Salt Lake City in a town called Cottonwood Heights, suburb.
Something I like about Utah in general, for good or bad, is that it's just a strange state, okay? Which explains why you're there. Utah's got some strange, weird stuff going on. Not commenting one way or the other on it, but that makes sense, I just got to say. So we could actually get into real questions if you want. I just had to say that about Utah.
No, that's all right. Yeah, it is strange down here. And I say down here because I'm originally from Vancouver, Canada. So every now and again it'll even come up in my accent, but not very often.
That makes a lot more sense. You're such a Canadian. I got to tell Greg. That makes a lot more sense. I love Vancouver. Been up to Vancouver a lot. It's like the sister city to Portland. You guys are cool people up there. So.
Yeah, I like that comparison a lot more than the sister city to Seattle. I'm sorry, but Vancouver is way cooler than Seattle. And Portland is way cooler than Seattle. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Seattle. I'm sorry. Seattle has themselves up their butt. No offense, Seattle, but
Oh my god.
The last time I was in Seattle, I was at some restaurant, and I'll just tell this story because you want to talk about how hearing people.
Please defend your statement. I'd appreciate it.
I used to have to do a lot of business trips up to Seattle and talk to a lot of people up there. Here's what I will say. They all are very proud of Seattle, and as far as they're concerned, they are the cleanest, most perfect, most green, most intelligent, most beautiful people on planet Earth, and every other city pales in comparison. But they're a little bit hypocritical. Okay? Seattle claims to be a zero garbage city. You know why? It's because they worked out a contract to have all of their garbage shipped away to a landfill in Oregon. That's why. So yeah, there's no garbage there because we take it in Oregon. Pretentiousness.
Hey, I gotta say, if they're gonna try and claim clean, all they need to do is go a little further north because Vancouver is a lot cleaner than Seattle.
Yeah, yeah. So look, I'm not gonna rag on Seattle. I got friends up there too, but overall, the city kind of has that yuppie air of we're better than you. And I sat in a restaurant once and just listened to this lady talk about the pretentious book club she was a part of and blah, 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 blah. Right? And it's just like, oh, really? Anyway, Vancouver, I'm sorry. I went to Vancouver, got a ghost tour with a guy who was fantastic. And at the end of the ghost tour, we smoked a doobie. That's Vancouver, okay? Vancouver is a lot like Portland in that sense. Cool people, down to earth, real good people, and they'll smoke a doobie. That will never happen in Seattle. I swear to God. Okay, so just gonna, yeah. And I'm probably making all sorts of enemies in Seattle, but it's just how I feel about it.
And we're off to a great start.
This is supposed to be.
I'm in the house, so the show's off the rails. I mean, that's just what happens when I come around.
It's the Utah factor. It's so the Utah factor. It really is.
Yeah.
Look at this. I didn't even bother to put this behind my head. Such a wreck today, Alex. All right. That was a weird place to go. Let's not talk about Seattle anymore. You're from Vancouver. That's cooler. That's way cooler. So I actually have some real questions for you. But I think we should probably explain what we're doing here and why we're actually competitors, right? You've seen what Alex and I do. We do produced Hangouts, or we're attempting to bring that into the industry. And we've just recently figured out that it should be called engagement broadcasting, what we focus on. And I think that's really what you're doing too, whether it's from a Hangout on air or a live stream event, whatever way you're going. The point is that you can use these web conferencing tools, specifically a Hangout, because it seems to be the best for this, to bring people together from around the world. It's affordable, and it can be done in a way that is broadcast worthy, but also focuses on engagement. And the engagement means a lot more than the broadcast. And I'm going to stop there, and I want you to run with that. Is that what you do too?
Yeah, no, the engagement is far more important. I get, first-time clients, people I'm talking with, they're like, so how many people watched?
Right.
I'm like, I don't care. They're like, how could you not care? That's what it's all about. I'm like, no, it's not. And the comparison I like to make is that basically the people buying media have been trained by media salespeople to ask the wrong questions, because they're always comparing the same bloated, unusable numbers. My favorite is I sat in on a sales presentation where the lady was selling billboards. And she's sitting there giving this is how many cars drive by the billboard every day. And the first question in my head was, and how many looked up?
Right.
Oh, and how many that looked up went, I need that service?
Right, right.
That's what I want to know. I don't care how many cars drive by.
Right.
And with a Hangout on air and some of the tools that are available, we can give you the number that everybody gives you, the bloated millions that watched the show or had the possibility of watching the show. That's available.
Right.
But what's more important is we can tell you how many people looked up. We can tell you when they looked up how many people actually went, interesting content, and we can even go as far as saying, and these are the number of people who are probably going to call you. Now, those numbers are really small, but they're accurate and they tell the real story. So yeah, it's about that engagement. It's about getting people to react around your brand and to build for your brand a community. I don't mean community in the term that Google Plus uses. I mean community in the term of an environment that has your personality infused into it and people are engaged because they want to be there.
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, it's beyond the Google Plus bubble, is what you're saying. And this is a global bubble. It doesn't matter where it comes from because they could be on Facebook, they could be on Twitter. It doesn't matter where they are. They can engage at that level, right, without being in the broadcast. Right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And that's a big thing to get across to people, is that what we're talking about here is a blending of production and activity, so that you can get everybody involved as much as possible. And I just got to ask you this. Do you know who Chris Hardwick is? Please tell me you know who Chris Hardwick is.
I don't. But then again, if you were to ask Cheryl, I am the worst at names ever. So if I didn't react with you in the last 24 hours, I probably don't know your name.
That's so open and honest. I get it. I'm the same way with names. The reason I ask about Chris Hardwick, it wasn't really to put you on a spot. It was to say that a lot of what you're doing is very much the same as what he has done with network television, right? And that he started off in the web world. He's become big enough to move into the network world, but his life, and he's a pioneer in bridging those two. Yeah, I've got a total man crush on Chris Hardwick. But that's why I asked, because a lot of the techniques, a lot of the things you're doing are very much in line with what he's doing. And I got to say, I'm tooting our horns here. There's very few people in marketing that understand that understand the value of telling somebody who's just tweeted something on your live broadcast, hey, we see that. Hey, we recognize that, right? The difference between having a follower and an evangelist.
Yes. Absolutely. And by the way, yes, you actually told me about this guy and your man crush within the last week, but it wasn't the last 24 hours, so I forgot.
There we go. That makes sense. I tell everybody about
Chris
it.
Something or another, right?
Yeah. At midnight. If you go watch the show at midnight, you will see a lot of the same things we're attempting to do here being done with the network setting, right? So, yeah. Let's talk about bandwidth. Let's talk about that show. Why did you start bandwidth? All right? Why? I want the why.
Why did I start bandwidth? For the challenge. Literally, that's why I started bandwidth. We say all the time that social media, Google Plus, Hangouts on Air, it's going to level the playing field. If you look at the disparity between startup solopreneurs and their financial situation and the wealthiest businessmen, there's a certain disparity. But if you actually compare the distance and the size of that disparity between rock stars and indie bands playing in their garage, the disparity is actually larger, and the opportunity to prove the belief or the theory of leveling the playing field is considerably bigger, and the challenge therefore is bigger with indie bands. So really that's what it was about for me. Everybody thinks that I'm doing this because I'm a music lover. No, Christine DeGraff is my partner because she's a music lover.
Right. And that makes a lot more sense. And the challenge, how has it been so far?
Oh, jeez. Every single week has been horrible. It is so difficult. Setup takes 6 hours. Equipment is always failing on me. The last show, the computer I was running the HOA from, powered down right before my eyes. About 15 minutes into the show. And I lost all control of the show, and I couldn't get it back.
Nice.
And it just went until everybody hung up. Literally, that's how we ended the show. And yeah, that was extremely stressful.
Yeah.
And most of them are.
Well, and it's, I gotta. So everybody that's watching, first of all, I'm sitting here trying to fix Dennis's frame rate right now. his camera is MacBook Pro. The frame rate sucks. I just figured out why. I'm in the middle of trying to shut the service down and change it, make him look better. But this is part of what we're doing here. I get a lot of people complain and make comments about what's going on, and I just got to explain. What we are doing is duplicating network broadcast capability at the cost of a consumer, right? That's big. So when you go, well, it doesn't look right and his frame rate's low and it's a little fuzzy, this is what I have to say, because it costs less than $5,000 to do, right? But the hours that it took to figure it out, the complexity with which is involved, the timing, the production, that you can't even put a price on. But this is the price that we have to pay as entrepreneurs, as pioneers in this emergent industry. Right? And so the effort that we're putting in now, it's so that we can make it a hell of a lot easier and look a lot better for everybody else down the road. Right? And we recognize the opportunity. We recognize that this is a business opportunity. More so than that, it's just an opportunity for humanity to connect in a huge, huge, huge way. And I think all of us that are really pushing this, all of us that are trying to make this engagement broadcasting really come alive and get more people interested, we see a bigger picture. And I'm pretty sure you're in line with that, Dennis, but you see it, you can tell this is much more powerful than simply a marketing tool, right?
Oh, it is. I mean, the ways in which this tool can help a brand is so much beyond anything, a marketing tool. I mean, one of the things that I tell all of my clients is make sure you bring guests. And I refuse categorically to be the person in charge of getting my clients guests. And there's very specific reasons that I refuse, not because I'm a jerk, though I think Kirk and Ryan might disagree at times. But it's largely because bringing in those guests means that they're now going to push your media, okay? They're going to bring their audience to your show. And you've just pimped their business. So as a result of doing that, they feel more tied and akin to you than they did before. So in the case of Jerk's Bike Shop, okay, if he brings in one of his suppliers that sells bikes to him and promotes that bike brand, that supplier is going to have a far better relationship, more trust, those kinds of things. Show me how buying an ad in a magazine or on a radio show or TV is ever going to strengthen your relationship with your suppliers, your clients, your customers. Not to mention, how are any of those things going to result in them giving you a kudos testimonial during the show? And inevitably, every guest always gives you some kind of testimonial. If you take the time to pull those out as little edit segments, just think of what your testimonial webpage could look like.
Oh, yeah.
With 52 testimonial videos a year.
Yeah.
You can't do this with other tools.
No, you can't do a lot of these things with other tools. It's the depth at which you can use this and expand on it are pretty much limitless, and that is a double-edged sword, because unfortunately it's really hard to go to a business and say, "Hi, small business owner, here's the universe," right? Because you really can deliver that kind of depth, that kind of insanity with these. And that's
well, we should clarify that it's not just the small businesses either. It's the corporations as well. They don't know what to do with this.
Oh yeah, well that's a whole nother realm. I mean, talking with Jim Schenkel, talking with the people we're working with, the bigger brands, I kind of laughed, but it makes so much sense. We're sitting here talking about the finer aspects of engagement and SEO, and they're like, you mean I can talk to my customers at their home? I want to do that. And I look at them and I say, yeah, big brand, you could be doing that 2 years ago for free. We can facilitate that for you. Let's make it something that's valuable to the customer too, right? I understand that you want your market research, which is the first thing they said. Holy crap, we want market research. We can do focus groups this way, right? It's like, yeah, we can pull the people together. I said, however, they're not going to want to just give you answers. They want a conversation. So why don't we make it a win-win situation? And this is where we're struggling with the brands to understand that, because they're like, oh, well, if you want a conversation in return, that means we have to provide human beings that we trust and value to represent our brand, not just ask questions as a market researcher, right? And Dennis, are you experiencing this with small businesses? I don't know. I'd like to hear your experiences, because for me, a small business owner seems to be willing to take that risk, whereas the large brand is like, right?
Nah. They look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, yeah. I've pretty much given up on the concept of selling people and telling people what can happen. I've tried a couple of different ways, and basically I'm just trying to figure out the way, if someone shows a modicum of interest, then I'm going to bring them on to something, and let them just experience it. Because I love this comparison, and I use it all the time, but people still don't get it, even though I use this comparison. But I say, imagine, if you will, it's 1904, and I'm Henry Ford, and I want to sell you a car. And you look at me and go, well, why do I need a carriage without a horse? That's not what a car is.
Right.
That's what they called it. That's how they saw it.
Right.
And until you actually drove one, you couldn't understand this isn't Skype.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
It's not what this is. This isn't a blog. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. It's none of the above, and it's all of the above, plus things that you're incapable of imagining.
Right. Right. It's bigger than you can understand right now. Let's feed you some pieces. Let's get those pieces going. Trust me. Right?
Yep. And they don't trust you anyway.
Well, and that it's hard, because you're not just shifting their understanding of what this is in terms of a conference call. We're still not done shifting them into the concept of authorship, right? Into the concept of having an identity. We're not done shifting them out of the concept of a persona.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to back up for a second. We're talking about what we're going on here, but I think one of the biggest issues we all face in the emerging technology industry, what we're doing is that business owners are at a varying and scary array of understanding. You've got people that are 15 years out of date. Hey, doggy.
Hi. Yeah, this is my big boy, Lullaby. Circle him. He's very friendly, and you know what? He's got a great sense of humor. It's very similar to mine.
Perfect. Looks like corporate material to me.
Yeah.
It's good to have him.
I love that he has his own plus page.
It's awesome.
Yep, Lullaby. Lalobee.
Makes me look like the sane dog owner, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, there's nothing sane in here. Okay, don't. So we've got a couple of questions that have been posed to us.
Great, let's answer.
Yeah, so Kevin Burns asks, question for both SEOWiSE and Funny Man Dennis Duce. That's actually a joke to the fact that I like to say I'm the funniest man on earth, but I'm the only one that thinks that. How did you come to find yourself in your current roles, i.e. hosts, engaging folks, the larger community and brands you're trying to build? I would not know about HOAs if it were not for some of the folks here and now.
Yeah, go for it, Dennis.
Okay, so I ended up in this role because 2007 came around, the market started to shift. I was a roofing I was in roofing sales, and marketing for a fairly large roofing company here in Salt Lake. And so I moved them towards an online marketing format, and took a company that before the quote-unquote recession was doing $3 million a year to a company after 2007 that was growing towards nearly $10 million a year. And literally, I bankrupted the guys because the owners didn't know how to handle growth. And so they just looked at the cash and went, hey, we got cash, we can spend it. Let's go buy new houses and boats and bankrupt ourselves. In the process, I learned, obviously, a lot about online marketing and decided I've had it with construction, and came in and worked in various capacities for various online marketing, SEO type companies, and quickly realized, for me, the massive problem that exists is the disparity between business owners who are passionate about what they do and therefore capable of creating engageable material on the one side, but too busy and probably don't have the time, desire, or skills to write blogs. So they hire SEO companies. What is an SEO company? Aside from the couple of geeks that are running the thing, the reality is everybody else, 80% of the staff of an SEO company are all the same. They have English degrees. They're writers. That's what they are. They're content creators. Somebody massages the stuff and turns it into SEO magic, but really it's just a bunch of writers. Well, so they know how to write properly. I don't think I even spoke that properly, but they know how to write properly, but they can't get the passion. And so you've got this big bridge there that's not getting balanced properly. And I looked at HOAs and I went, oh, well, there's your bridge right there. If you could meet with the small business owner for 1 hour every week and capture him passionate about what he does, he doesn't have to prepare for this thing. He does it every single day of his life. It's easy for him. You just get him, get that passion, build the tools within the HOA to get the engagement, bridge is created, content is created. If they want to step up and go as far as transcribing, a 1 hour HOA is usually about 7,000 words, guys. Do you have any idea what it would cost to have an SEO company write you a 7,000 word blog?
Yeah.
And then imagine, what is the likelihood that they're actually going to keyword stuff in a way that Google's going to flag it? Well, pretty likely, because they just do it automatically. Well, this business owner isn't going to keyword stuff. He's speaking. So you're never going to get flagged.
Right.
So I just went, all right, there's your bridge, there's your answer. Been much harder to sell than I thought it would be, but yeah, there's your answer. So that's my answer to how I got here, Kevin. What about you guys?
Good answer. Good answer. All right, let's see. We're gonna do this, Alex.
That's all you.
That's all me.
I didn't really have a say in this. I just kind of ended up being a part of it, really.
Yeah, that's actually pretty true. We got started in this because I had a web development company called Portland Internet Design, which I recently shut down. And I shut it down because you can't run two companies effectively, at least not with the resources that we have at hand. And web development is kind of a buggy whip business. It's going out of, it's something that you need specialists in, but there's an awful lot of developers out there, and it's a tough market to crack, and prices are all over the place. And I got tired of that industry. I needed something new and interesting. Web development had become boring. When I realized what the opportunities were with web broadcasting, that Hangouts presented an opportunity with technology that we hadn't even seen before. I started back in September, what was it, Alex? I don't remember when it was, when I went to the Denver Hurl, and that was my first experience with attempting to produce a Hangout. In truth, that was probably the first produced Hangout, I think, because we had multiple cameras actually running wirelessly. I know people had tried to do it before, but I didn't really know what was going on. I showed up at this house. We had all met via a Hangout before. we communicated, got together, and put this thing together in Denver very quickly. And I was just blown away by the fact that it never would have happened this fast, and we never could have gotten along and accomplished all of it as quickly as we did and as well as we did without Hangouts and without Google+. That was just a big signal. And since then, Alex and I have started the process of, one, understanding the technology, and that's what I've spent the majority of my time and effort doing, is trying to make the technology function as well as I can, figuring out how to do it at an affordable level for small businesses, and then understanding the levels of scale to take it up to something like what they do with the Obama Hangouts. The Obama Hangouts are a YouTube live stream Hangout wrapped into a YouTube live stream event. It's exactly what we're doing right here. Okay, you can't get, regardless of what we see here, you can't get the quality that we're delivering in a regular HOA right now. And this is why we have to bridge the technology between a Hangout and a YouTube live stream event. Once we did that, once Alex and I realized what the power of this was, and we started messing around with shows, it just evolved from there. And now we're at a point where we've seen multiple industries diverge. We've got the show aspect with sponsorships and businesses for engagement. We've got the concept of virtualized conferences, and we're working with other people in that, taking professional presentations and putting different monetization levels so that you could watch the conference virtually, pay for different chunks of it. You don't have to see the whole thing. Talking with nonprofits about like Big Fun Education and working with them on just changing the face of education. Every day we find something new that this can do. So why did we get into it? We got into it because this is the future of human communication, and we might be messing around with shows and marketing to put food on the table, but this is actually a paradigm shift in humanity. This is going to change things so much farther beyond the dollar. This is going to make the dollar almost irrelevant, I think, because we're going to learn how to communicate and work together in ways that make what we do much more valuable than the money it creates. And I realize that's a horrible thing to say as an American businessman, but that's how I do business. So there you go. Long-winded. Alex, you want to add anything to that?
No, I literally, I'm just the voice of the brand. I really had no say, and then I was in so deep. I was like, well, I guess we're just doing this. I don't know any. It's hilarious. Like, people will be like, "Oh, how do you guys do what you do?" I'm like, I'm tech-tarded. I just talk. I just talk words. I do words. I don't do technology.
That's not even accurate. We got to clarify that right now. Alex is the voice of the brand. What she is the modern version of a social media marketer. Okay, social media. What?
I just don't like that word.
I know. I don't like it either. I don't like social media marketer. The voice of a brand is something we've been working on shaping, and Alex is kind of a pioneer in that sense. There were other people before her who were doing this and led the way. Lots of people that weren't necessarily representing a brand, but they were a personal brand. So they're representing themselves. And what this is a blending of the person and the brand. And this is why big brands, and we'll get back to Dennis and talking about this, but this is one of the reasons big brands are really scared, is that they have to put trust in their employees because their customers are asking for that. They want somebody to trust. I'm not going to trust a logo until I'll trust the people behind the logo. Alex is paramount in shaping that trust with SEOWiSE and people. That's what she does. I talk very rarely as SEOWiSE because I'm a radical psycho nutcase. And so the things that I have to say, I put on my personal profile, because you don't want to read those things that I think about religion on the SEOWiSE brand. They shouldn't be there, right? The SEOWiSE brand is about representing the business and what the business does. It has Alex as a human voice. It has me as a voice that shows up every once in a while. All right. This is how brands need to function today. I'm going to move it back over to all three of us because I want to ask Dennis, how are you working with voices in branding? Do you do that capacity? Do you function as that for your clients, or do you work with them on how they voice? Uh-oh. Do we not have audio on Dennis?
It doesn't sound like it.
I turned it down so that you wouldn't hear me typing, and hopefully so you wouldn't hear my Great Dane who's begging to go out the back door. So I have to do some level of management of the Google Plus page in order to run the HOAs.
Sure.
And so I make it very clear to my clients, look, I'm basically the first question I ask my clients so that I can do my job, and it blows them away. They're like, really? This is where you want to start? If you were to give a personality to your business, if you were to say, my business is like this person, who would that person be and why?
Right.
And it stretches them a lot, but once they give me that information, then I get inside the head of that person to speak as the brand. Now, beyond that, I always post, when I post as one of the brands that I manage, I always post with a plus tag. I'll say something at the end like, post by Dennis Duce, or sometimes I think I'm really funny. I'll put in there REL equals author plus Dennis Duce. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. I'm completely aware that's not going to give me authorship, but it's a funny joke. And I always put hashtag geek joke after that.
Nice.
So, but yeah, I try and put a personality to a business, and create a. Well, yeah, I mean, people want to engage with people. People don't want to engage with your logo. So, we've got to find ways to. I'm sorry. Time out. My front door just blew open, and my Great Dane is wondering whether he's going to bolt for it.
That's okay.
I'll be right back.
Take care of it. Alex and I'll vamp. This show is coming out interesting anyway, because I got one shot of Dennis that looks great, and the other shot where he's totally like freeze frame moments. And
Well, fun fact for everybody out there, me and Dennis have no idea what this looks like, because the camera that we were supposed to look at apparently isn't working.
Let me fix that, Alex.
We have no idea if we're on camera.
This entire show today is really a jeez. Hang on a second. You should be seeing it. And we just lost camera. So we're going to put it back on here, guys. I need to get the Hangout going back. We're having all sorts of technical problems today. We'll be right back with you. Go. All right, everybody, we're back, having restarted a few things, and we're gonna try to continue this conversation. See what happens here. You guys still can't see the right thing, can you?
No.
Us or all of them's out there.
No, you guys. There you go. Now you can see the virtual cam.
All right, look at that.
Okay, and we're
There we go.
maybe back again. We'll see what happens. Just for a note out there, hey Wirecast, got CPU at 100% again. Not sure why. So, what were we talking about? Other questions out there? You said something about Amon Johns.
So, Owen has a question that I don't totally understand.
All right.
But I want to read it anyway. It's for all three of us again. How do you respond to articles such as Kathleen Katau's talking about not doing HOAs if you suffer from any of these complexes? The star complex, the cheerleader complex, the navel gazing complex. And then he puts the link, which I haven't had time to go look at the link yet, and I haven't read this article, so I'm not sure what these complexes are.
My guess is, so there's a lot of things going on right now with this whole HOA and the web broadcasting world. First, there's a lot of confusion over what it is, what people need to have to be involved. There's also a bigger question of professionalism. And I think we all need to take a step back and remember that this was created as a way for people to communicate with each other. It was not created as a broadcast method in the first place. It wasn't created as a professional broadcast system. It was just a means of communication. It still is just a means of communication. I like the fact that we're having questions about what it is. I love that because, and yeah, I'm going to go all monologue here. What we're talking about is humans understanding that they're way more exposed and that they have to choose. If they're going to be open and authentic, it's okay. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to navel gaze. You're going to have the star complex maybe. You're going to get the celebrity complex. These things happen because we're human beings, okay? Pointing them out, telling people not to go on camera because of them, I think is wrong. Maybe telling people, hey, if you're going to be in front of a camera, if you're interested in hosting a show, if you're interested in doing more than just having a conversation, which was all this was meant for in the first place, then you need to do something to prepare yourself. Don't think you can just walk in as Mr. Business Owner and start being Mr. Professional Host. There's a reason why people on TV get paid what they do. There's a reason why it takes them years to get those positions. They're really good at it. We can't expect regular business owners to walk into a broadcast situation and function like Katie Couric. It's just not going to happen. But if you continue to run a show or to continue to try to function like Katie Couric and you blow, you need to do something about it. And maybe that's where Owen's going. I don't know. Does he have any response there? You know?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, because it's got another 25 seconds before he even hears any of this shit. What do you think about that stuff, Dennis? Because that's, you know, it's such a different market. I just think people need to relax and understand that we haven't even defined things yet. So just relax, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You know, right way, wrong way, you get into all of this stuff. Quite honestly, I don't like the whole do what the experts say, but it's not my mindset anyway. I mean, if any of you watched the HOA where my wife and I got psychologically evaluated for an hour and 46 minutes, you know, I am like way outside the box thinker. It's everything's an adjustment. Everything, just because things have been done a certain way doesn't mean squat to me. And besides that, how on earth are we supposed to have an expert in an industry and a technology that is only a year or two old? Like, who's supposed to have the absolutely this is the only way to do it? There are no answers. So give it a try, take a look at what you've done, evaluate it, learn from it, and go back again next week.
Right. But you do.
I think you're pointing on something that I do think that people are starting to discuss, and I think it needs to be discussed. I think a lot of people are noticing that people that do run these HOAs aren't going back and learning. They aren't, you know, they aren't what John always says, what learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Yeah.
Is that the right?
Alvin Toffler.
That's the right. in the right order and everything.
Yeah.
I think that's the issue that we're running into, is those of us that have been in the HOA space for a while. We're like, why are they continuing to do the same thing? Why aren't they learning from it? Why aren't they progressing? And they may be progressing in one aspect, but maybe not in another. And I think that's where I think it's great that we're having a discussion about it, because those of us that have watched so many of these, and it is, a lot of people are saying it is starting to become a saturated market. Are you learning from what you're doing? And if you're not, maybe those are the people that we're saying maybe you shouldn't be in the HOA space.
That's well said. That's well said, Alex. You brought up a couple points. You got up a couple points that I want to call out there, and the first one is, if they're running an HOA show and they've got engagement, and we don't know, but maybe they're getting sales. If it's working for them, they don't need to change anything. And I think that's something that we need to consider, that with blogging, with link building, with all the things we've done in the past with marketing, it's kind of volume based, right? How many views can we get? How many people can show up? But with a Hangout, if you get 10 people in there, and those are 10 potential customers, you're direct selling to 10 potential customers without actually selling anything. You're building a relationship where at the end of that hour-long conversation or whatever it happens to be, they could be ready to buy. And that's such a different experience than what marketing has been in the past. You couldn't do that in the past unless you were literally in front of them, right? But this atmosphere lends itself to that. So while I understand the urge to get better and to improve things, I think there's going to be an entire level of Hangouts where it's, low level. What do I call them? I call them headshot shows, right? It's just talking head shows. But my God, if they bring the business, who cares? Why would the business owner want to do anything beyond that unless they have the means and the resources? Dennis?
And I'm totally comfortable with that.
Okay.
But
yeah,
I want them to call it what it is.
Now we get to the points. Okay.
I guess I'm feisty today. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because Dennis is here. I call these people out.
All right, so I'll just ask the two of you. What should they be called? Define these things, because you know what I think. You know what I think they should be called. I'm arrogant about it. What do you think?
Alex, go ahead. What should they be called?
I'm comfortable with them being called HOAs, because that they're hangouts on air. I'm totally comfortable with that. But when they start saying the newest thing, or they start calling them produced hangouts, then maybe we have to call what we've been calling produced hangouts something else. I'm comfortable with the fact that we're having a discussion about it now, so it doesn't have to be solidified. The definition for me doesn't have to be solidified. I think we're confusing so many terms right now that that's what's making me uncomfortable. What she's talking about, all these different complexes for people running HOAs, I can't say anything to that. Maybe I have one. Maybe I have a star complex or a cheerleader complex. I really wouldn't know. But what's really frustrating for me is that what we do and what Dennis does and what other people are doing that literally just press live, they're all being called the same thing. And I don't think they are the same thing. I'm not saying one is lower than the other. I'm not saying one has less value than the other. I'm just saying that they aren't the same thing. Owen Ellis says, call them damn infomercials.
Interesting.
All right.
Dennis, your take?
I'm pretty loose when it comes to this kind of stuff. I look at what is a produced hangout, for example. Well, and I've had people, even good friends, call me out and say, look, your shows don't start on time. There's this problem, there's that problem, you call yourself a producer, and according to Hollywood, no, I'm not a producer. But I am a producer. I create hangouts on air for businesses. And all of those hangouts on air are getting incredibly high levels of engagement, much higher than other shows in the same viewership category. And it's little things that create that engagement. Lightning Pawn, it's the Pawn Boys game.
Yeah.
Which creates a massive amount of engagement. Everybody loves that game. But the genius about that game is it's the only real SEO thing we're doing in the entire show. Yeah, you guys all love Pawn or Die, but Pawn or Die is where we talk about what things are worth if you sell them or pawn them, what things are worth if you buy them from a pawn shop, descriptions of the items that are available. That's the content that needs to show up within your show. You've got to have something that is around what it is you're selling for Google to find you properly.
Yeah.
And yet we've done it in such a way that people just love it. I mean, John Harris created an opener for it just because he loved it and sent it to us and didn't charge us for it. You know, people just love that game. And, you know, that didn't come right away. It took a few weeks for us to figure that game out, and then it took a little while longer to perfect the game. But those are the kinds of things that really, really matter here in the world of HOAs. And those things come from learning and watching what's happening. And so I think, you know, yes, anybody that has a modicum of knowledge can throw up an HOA for their business. I think the value of the producer is not necessarily in making the cool shots. That being said, I do some shows that are all about the cool shots. I mean, that is all Bandwidth is about, okay? So if your show is about that stuff, then it needs to be. And if it's not, then maybe it doesn't matter. What matters is how am I going to build engagement, build a community, and build my brand so that Google realizes I'm an expert in this area.
Right, right. And I just want to say, you said perfectly beautiful things. It truly depends on the show, which is a completely different way to look at what we're doing here, the content we're marketing, right? Now the business has to say, why? Why am I doing this? Because the why determines everything about the show. Do I need fancy shots? Depends on why. Do I need, you know, all this engagement? Depends on why. This is what has changed this. When you say producer, I'm right there with you. I don't consider myself a Hollywood producer either. I don't know half the crap that the people in Hollywood know about how to do that stuff, all right? I couldn't make a Lord of the Rings. You couldn't either. However, they couldn't come down and understand how to bridge social media with production in a practical way that actually makes something good out of it. This is a new kind of production. This is a totally different world here, and we're blending different things together, and the way they come together is like cooking a meal, right? How much of this do I use? Well, it depends on what you're trying to get out of it over here, and it depends on the flavor you want, and it depends on how much you want to be able to serve at the end of the dish. I mean, all of these things come into play, and I think that's part of the issue here is that not only is the terminology different, and we're just trying to figure it out, you know, Hangout production, anything that goes beyond just, hey, everybody, let's get in and have a call, that could be considered production, right? What level of production is that? Who knows, right? Is it scripted? Is it unscripted? We can take it all the way to the point of Hollywood if we want. The question is, does it need to be? And there we have to go back to why. And maybe that's the biggest problem, is getting businesses to ask why. And if their answer is sales, then they're missing that entire relationship in between, right? If your end goal is sales, then we have a lot of work to do to get you to that point. But don't do the Hangout on there and just tell me you want sales from it, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It isn't just about sales. And yet, at the same time, sales become a factor. But here's the thing. The value of your client is life cycle value. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, life cycle value is not a stagnant number.
No.
You can improve life cycle value. And how do you do that? By improving your relationship with the customers you already have in the door.
Yep.
Can you name an easier way to do that? I'm sorry. Email marketing or Hangouts on Air? Let me see here. I'm going with Hangout on Air. Just saying.
It's interesting that you say that. I was talking with Greg Nelson out there. Will find this interesting. I was talking with a new client this morning, handing him over to a developer, and the developer, who is a good friend of mine, is very excited about the new strides they've made in their email marketing technology. And Greg, who has been working with us in Hangouts for months, just kind of went, meh. And I went, yeah, meh. We're doing something different. I just need you to build websites, right? So it's interesting when you say this. Like, no, once you understand the capability of this, nobody in the world is going to touch email again, right? There's no reason to. It's old school, you know? Yeah, good points. Good points.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, my last 9 months have been really interesting as I have gotten more and more and more involved. But here on the plus, but literally most days I do not open my email until afternoon.
Nice.
And 9 months ago, going back to 9 years ago, it was the first I did that before I went to the bathroom in the morning.
Yep. Lying in bed, reading email,
Exactly. on my palm.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's taking it back there.
Yeah, that made me a palm reader, I guess.
Very nice. Terrible.
That was horrible. That deserved that. Nah, nah, nah.
Sound effects is something I don't have going. Alex, we got to get on that. Dennis uses sound effects. I want to bring in canned laughter at least.
I know, he uses them great. So I do have to say that Pawn or Die is super fun as someone that just did it. And shout out to Kevin Burns. I know, I totally cheated, but I won. So I think it's okay that I cheated. He was like, no more cheat sheets, Alex. I know.
So that's
I had.
What did you do?
Well, I want to know, how did you cheat?
Tell us about it. Yeah.
I had Lance Fields, who wasn't actually Lance at the time, and I also had Ryan in the audience giving me the answers.
Now we know.
As the producer, I knew none of this was going. I mean, obviously, guys, I was quite aware that Lance Fields was in fact Kirk Sherrod. So there were people in the audience that didn't know that until the end of the show.
Okay, so I just want to back up for a second and say, right here, we're recounting a show that you did the other day. Alex, you were on it. It was one of Dennis's shows. It was for a client called Lightning Pawn. The show was called Pawn Boys, and you were playing a game within that show. Now, I'm not even going to go look at it. It wasn't complex. You didn't spend $1 billion on making this show. It's very simple. The game is very simple. But the engagement you're getting, the reactions you're getting, the fun people are having, and ultimately what this is doing is really building the brand name. I know you talked about the fact that you actually mentioned the items in the show and that's a part of the SEO that you're working in. And that's really smart to talk about the prices and what they are and get that description information in a transcript. But even if you forget all of that stuff, what you've got is a business having fun with people that are potential customers. And forget that they're potential customers. You're having fun with people that'll probably never show up on that business's doorstep, but they will promote that business forever because they had fun with them on a silly show. Right? And if you can't recognize the value of having an evangelist that you just made simply by spending some time with them, talking about some stuff that you have in your store, right? That's pretty huge. I mean, it just blows me away. Dennis, I know you're older, you're around my age, I think I'm older than you anyway, but whatever. You've been around long enough to know the 80s and know that if we had had a way to sell like this back then, holy shit. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. it's hard to get businesses to understand that today. It really is. But I just, you guys had a ball on that show, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. The level of production on that show is exactly what it needs to be to make it successful. Right? When you and I talked, it's like, well, we could do this, we could do that. I'm thinking of ways I can make frame rates better and make everything better. But the truth is that those things don't need to happen. They could happen. But for that show, they're not necessary, right?
And the client's not going to pay for it.
Right.
You know? I mean, flat out, ain't going to happen.
And that's another beautiful thing to note. This is a very, very cool aspect of this. It's kind of like thinking of it in like non-HD, HD, Blu-ray, 4K or whatever. Like, we've got a whole level of business owners that are perfectly happy broadcasting in non-HD. It's just unnecessary because what they need out of that broadcast has nothing to do with the quality of the broadcast, right? So it's a beautiful thing that we can now create tiers, levels of engagement. A corporation that needs to present things on a much more professional level can afford to do so and pay for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
but it's not going to be necessary for the purpose of, you know, I mean, let's talk reality on Lightning Pond.
Right.
Ryan had a guy come into his shop 4 weeks after we went live with that show, walked straight up to him with his hand out, made Ryan quite nervous actually because he's in a pawn shop. Straight up to him, put his hand out, shook his hand, and said, "Finally I get to meet you." And Ryan's like, "Do I know you? Have we met?" He says, "I've been watching your show for weeks, and I just love what you're doing, and I had to come in here," and spends about $1,000 in the shop.
That's powerful.
Now, on top of that, I ran a search. It was about a month ago now. I ran a search for Utah Pawn Shop. And Lightning Pawn had 2 things on the first page for Utah Pawn Shop, and Lightning Pawn doesn't have a website.
Wow. That's pretty huge. That's pretty huge. I mean, actually, Alex, that's so exactly what I was talking about before. Website is really unnecessary because your home base isn't your website anymore. But that's beautiful. I mean,
that's good news for us. Just saying.
Because SEOWiSE has been bad shape. Give me another instance, Dennis. I think the only way we're really gonna get people to understand how powerful this is by example. Give me another example.
So I got 2 more examples from Kirk Sherrod's show.
All right.
This is the Jerks Corner show, famous for the bat phone, which is the way in which I notify Kirk that somebody has a comment worth bringing up. Of all things, I play the doorbell noise and he picks up the telephone. It's just quirkiness. But people love the bat phone. Now, in the 3rd week of the show, a guy from Washington State put in a comment that he had just bought a bike from a bike shop. He didn't like the tires. He wanted better tires. And what tires would you recommend? Here's all the conditions that I plan on riding in with this bike. And Kirk took about 10 minutes during the show, explained the tires he would go with. He knew enough about the bike the guy had bought to know the guy had spent some money and would be willing to spend some money for good tires. He finally recommended a pair of tires that were $75 a piece. And so the guy writes back in the comments of the event and asks, he says, "I've looked them up. I found them online. This is what I can buy them for. But I looked on your website. It doesn't look like you have a shopping cart yet. Can I buy these from you?" And so Kirk's like, "Yeah, just call me, and I'll take your card over the phone, and we'll ship them to you, I guess."
Right.
And ships him $150 worth of tires. Now, beyond that, Mia Voss has decided to buy a bike.
Well,
and Mia is driving all the way to Salt Lake City to buy a bike from Kirk Sherrod, and not just any bike. Now, in the process of this entire experience, Mia said to me, "Hey, I'm going to be in town. Why don't we do a couple of Utah-based shows together while I'm there?" Okay, cool. So I went and talked to some clients that I've been trying to get interested and said, "Hey, Here's why we should do something while you're in town. One of those people is a little cookie shop, which is going to be on the Mia Power Chat Friday the 20th of June, called Ruby Snap Cookies. And the cool thing is they actually have a cookie called the Mia. But anyway, I was talking with the owner of that shop about this whole thing that Mia is doing, and she goes, "Oh, I've been wanting to buy a bike. Why don't I come down? I'll buy a bike at the same time." So, like, it doesn't work. I mean, come on, seriously.
Yeah, that's and there's going to be PR that comes from that. There's going to be all sorts of things that derives from that besides the sale, right? I mean, that.
And Kirk Sherrod one time on one of the shows, he actually said, when people ask me this question, what benefit are you getting out of it? Why are you doing this stuff? He says, look, if you're not doing this, just close your doors now. Really? I mean, come on. This is where business is going. So if you're not going to stay ahead of the curve, just pack it up now, because it's going to happen inevitably anyway.
Well, I say the same thing, but unfortunately it doesn't have the same impact. I don't know how well it works for you.
Which is why I pulled that segment out by itself, because, when you toot your own horn, it just doesn't sound as good. So, yeah. You can go see that video on Gombach's YouTube channel.
Okay. We'll do that. We're running a little over, even though we had to cut out for a second there. I'd like to come. We got to do this more. I mean, we got to have you on and talk more of these things, and I know we'll be working together in different capacities. And that's, we kind of got carried away with talking about other shit, which, geez, never happens on this show, Alex. The idea here was to talk about collaborating and working with your competition. Dennis is working in Hangout production, just like Alex and I are. But it's such a new industry, and I have no fear of competition. There's no need. We're doing the same thing. We're doing it in different ways. We can both work together, and in truth, it's more powerful for us if we combine efforts. Right? It's more powerful that way. We haven't even gone down the rabbit hole, but there are ways that we can do dual broadcasts and double the power of this by using his system and my system and pushing out things together. There's so many cool things that could be done. Not working with your competition for us would be kind of stupid, right? As I told Dennis earlier, it's like, if nothing else, we need to work with each other so when something goes wrong or we have no idea why shit's not working the way it should, we can look at each other and go, what the fuck, right?
Exactly. Which we did in the green room before the show.
Right. Entire system crashed right before the show. I mean, this is what happens.
Here's the thing. Like I said when we first met the first time, do you or do you not believe what's being said about semantic search, specifically, that this is going to draw together and bring to you the people who are most likely to do business with you because they know certain things about you.
Right.
And so having a conversation on the internet with my competitor, Google is going to, through semantic search, tell whether you're going to be more comfortable working with Goofy Dennis, conversive Alex, or highly technical John. They know that. You're going to get the right clients.
Yeah.
I believe in semantic search, so much so that I was the one that said, Alex, the three of us need to get together. We need to prove it to the world. We need to put our mouths where and act on this.
Yeah.
This is 20 years ahead of time. Really, what we're doing right now is ridiculous. It's so risky. People are probably thinking we're completely and utterly insane. But you know what? Do you or do you not believe it?
Right. I do. I watch it happen every day. I mean, Alex and I have seen the impact, and we've talked many times, and I'm sure you've done the same, about the fact that this is what you have to do when you're in a pioneering space, and it sucks. until the rest of the world catches up, or at least enough of them catch up so that you can make a living doing it. We're very passionate about this, but there's a lot to explain. It's a huge, big bucket, and I think that's part of the problem. Right now, it's very easy for me to say, heck, we could take in new clients and say, let's talk to them together. This is what Dennis specializes in. This is what we specialize in. Hell, maybe we're working on a combined show. Who knows? Right? That's
straight up. Absolutely.
That's what I love about this, is that there's too much. There's too much to do and too many ways that it can be done for our companies to actually be in conflict. We could be like old school companies and focus on those aspects and be assholes about it, or we can figure out how to help each other grow. And I'd much rather do the latter.
Me too. Yep.
I suggest, and it kind of tying this together for everybody else, think about your competitors and where they sit on the web and where they sit in social space. Are they open enough? Are they transparent enough? Are they authentic enough to work with you? Because if they are, that's great. And then the next question really should be, are you? Right? How open are you? Tell us what you got going on, Dennis, where you're at, what you want people to know about.
Let's see. I got bandwidth. Of course, every other Wednesday is music, and the in-between Wednesdays are Christine and I interviewing people in the music industry on Google+, talking about how Google+, and online marketing can help promote your business. Got Network Roundtable in 30 minutes. We call that the Small Business Happy Hour. Not to be confused with Delilah's Happy Hour, because there's really not a lot of drinking on this one. But yeah, we have a great time on that show. I'm working on a couple of other things that I think will be coming up pretty soon. Bringing in a massive podcaster who has been podcasting since 2005, and I'm going to be producing a weekly HOA for him, probably starting in July.
Cool.
Super excited about that. The guy's got 5 books that have all been on Amazon.com's best-selling list.
Wow.
So he's going to be, it'll be a big splash when he hits here. And so, yeah, having fun.
Very, very cool.
Looking for more opportunities, just having fun.
All right, and I want to close with this and then let Alex run us out, and that is, Dennis mentioned bandwidth. Being the music snob that I am, and not wanting to put Alex there on the screen all by herself. There we go. Being the music snob that I am, and working with rock and roll and being in the industry, I can say that this is going to be really cool. Dennis has had bandwidth going for a while. It's a great idea, great concept, and later on this year, you will be seeing us work with Bandwidth and Dennis and Christine and My Music Hangouts and basically the music scene in Google+. And we're going to bring the School of Rock into that. We're working with the School of Rock right now. And if you're familiar with the School of Rock, then you know how awesome they are. If not, look them up. Find them on Plus. My kids went through this program. I went to this program as an old man. It is phenomenal. As a musician who has spent his time learning the old way, performance-based music, as it's taught by the School of Rock, is a phenomenal experience, and every kid should have the opportunity. I'm really looking forward to bridging what the school has to offer with what Dennis has to offer in his ability to create fun engagement around Hangout shows. This is something that he excels at, and I'd have to say better than what we do with SEOWiSE. He's really figured out how to do that piece in the middle. We're real good with the conversation and the technical and the processes. And Alex is phenomenal as a voice. But Dennis really has it down as far as what to do in the show to make it fun and engaging. And so we're looking forward to doing that with him and the School of Rock later this year. Anybody out there want to have any other things to say? If not, Alex, you're running us out.
Okay. I mean, the conversation in the comments has just been great. All of you out there have been keeping me extremely entertained. But I do want to thank all of you for watching the show and leaving your comments. And if you didn't comment, it's okay. I'm I tend to be shy too, so don't worry about it. I appreciate you just as much as I appreciate everybody else. Next Friday, we will actually be talking to Stefan Hovnanian and Ben.
Mr.
I'm not
Fisher.
sure what we'll be talking about quite yet, Ben Fisher. So stay tuned for that on Friday. It will be at a different time because Stefan is like, I don't know, ridiculously busy apparently.
Good man.
But yeah, otherwise, keep engaging on the event. I'll always talk to you as SEOWiSE. I'll always talk to you as myself. And hopefully we'll see you next Friday.
There it is. From Alex, John, and Dennis. This is SEOWiSE Office Hours. You guys have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.